So this is your daily view. It's beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Welcome back to another episode of A Girl Business Podcast. Today I have with me Carol, and Carol has been in the community for
54 years.
54 years. She is the owner of Carol's Prattville Café, and I'm really excited to hear all about her story and the history here and the changes she's seen, especially for women. So, Carol, I'm just going to let you take it as far back as you want to go from the top.
As we discussed earlier over French toast, I came here in 1971. My husband's mother and father started the resort in 1928. The restaurant had been closed for 7 years, but I grew up in a restaurant. And when you're 24, you think you know it all anyway. So I thought I can run a restaurant. I grew up in one. And of course, that was totally wrong. But the first year, my biggest day was 4th of July, and I made $25. And that was my total gross receipts for the day and the biggest day I had all summer. My father, who was still working at the time, came up and helped me set up my kitchen and helped me with the menu. It was way too ambitious at the beginning. And then I also helped my mother-in-law, we ran it with her the first year in 1971. And I learned more about the resort business, and I cleaned the cabins and the bathrooms, and then I didn't have any employees. I just did it all by myself in the restaurant part. And then the following year she retired, and so we started then in 72 running it ourselves. And we ran it together, not with a lot of participation from my husband, because he had a gold mine in Seneca, and that was where he wanted to be. And he also was a heavy equipment operator, so he did other jobs, put in septic tanks and things like that. So it left it to me to pretty much run it. And it was on the job training. But as far as the restaurant goes, I every winter during the 80s, I would take correspondence courses from the National Restaurant Association. And back then, that was the way you got your chef's degree and your business degree, is through correspondence. So I would do the studies in the wintertime and then go to the library in Chester, and the librarian would proctor them for me and send them back to Chicago. And then when I completed that set, they would send me the next section. And I only did it in the wintertime. So it took me like 4 years to get my management degree from the National Restaurant Association. Later on, I belonged to the American Culinary Federation, and I took classes from them for almost 2 years, and then took a test and became a chef de cuisine. That means that you have less than 10 people in the kitchen, and you're a working chef. Executive chefs usually have a lot more under them, and they don't do the actual cooking. I've never been an executive chef, pretty much. I've always been a working chef. And I've added baking to that in recent years. Uh, and so it kind of rounded me out, but I just have a passion for it. There's a quote from a chef that I admire who used to work at Commander's Palace, and his quote is, "I don't go to work, I go to live my passion." And that for me sums up what I do and what I've always done. And food is love to me. People that say I don't care if I eat, I just eat because it's fuel in my tank, I never have understood that, because to me, when you cook something for someone, that means that you care about them, even if you've never met them before. So that part is really important to me.
That's amazing. And now you get to do that for a living.
I do that for a living, and I also do it at the food pantry now. And that's huge for me. That's my other passion, is the Almanor Basin Food Pantry. And under that auspices, we also in the wintertime do a community supper. We did our last one last week, until we'll start up again the week before Thanksgiving. And I have sponsors for each event. But my crew and I have a full crew of volunteers. We're all volunteers that cook the meals, and then the sponsors come and volunteer to serve it and do the dishes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Amazing. So it's been really, really gratifying, and it
Yeah.
brings the community together. And it's fun to see a lot of seniors come out and people on limited incomes, and we don't require a fee. If they want to donate, they can, but they don't have to. And I love giving free food away. That's really, really fun. And that's the same thing. Like yesterday, we did our Easter distribution at the food pantry and served 76 families.
That's
So 76
amazing.
families yesterday got a ham dinner.
Yeah.
So those are parts and part of who I am and why I do what I do.
Yeah. So for the community suppers and the food pantry work that you do, is that a nonprofit?
That's a nonprofit. We're a registered nonprofit.
Okay.
And we're located in the wing of the Methodist Church, but we're not under uh, the authority of the Methodist Church. We pay rent, so we are totally a registered nonprofit,
Okay.
and we rely totally on donations. And Collins Pine has been very, very generous to us and helped us out a lot. But we rely on people donations of the community, and it's what makes it happen.
Yeah.
It's what we buy food with, and so it's really important to have that community involvement.
Yeah.
So I may be talking more about that than restaurant, but
That's okay.
it's a passion for me. And but I grew up in the restaurant. My father taught me, and it was in Humboldt County, and we had a restaurant and it seated almost 100. And my dad ran the back of the house, and my mother ran the front of the house, and then my sister and I were waitresses. And uh, I was born there and stayed there until 1964 when we had a major flood and it destroyed the whole town. And we lost our home, our motel, our restaurant, everything. So it was a struggle after that for a while. And then it was just a few years later that I met Kenneth and he brought me up here. And this has been my home ever since. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a big adjustment period moving from
No,
Humboldt to here?
the first time he brought me here before we moved here, we came in on the old road and I thought, this is where I want to be. It was like I was basically homeless for a couple of years after that. I went to boarding school, so I had a place to go back to, but my parents would have to go from place to place. My dad was working for other people
Mhm.
just to get by. And so when I came up here the first time, I knew that this was where I needed to be, and it's never changed. Uh, I still come that road every now and then and remember that every time I go. The smell of the pines, the smell of the firs, the grassy meadow that's up there, the campground with the tents. There weren't very many trailers back then that people camped in. It was mostly tents, and it just struck a chord with me, and I just wanted to be here from day one, and never have wanted to be anywhere else.
Mhm.
It's almost spiritual for me to be here because I'm just so blessed. And once you've lost something like we lost in the flood, and you can get roots again, it's a wonderful thing. And
Mhm.
so I there's never a day that I go by that I don't feel blessed to be able to live here. And I have this community has been through so much in the last few years, and they're all such wonderful people, and they all help each other. And I sit on my term's almost up for the Chamber of Commerce, Lake Almanor Basin Chamber of Commerce. But there's a remarkable amount of business people in this community that help one another. It's not that competition thing that you hear so much about where you hate your competitor because they have more business than you do. You don't, I don't find that up here. And I've never found it. And of course, my dad, he had a restaurant right next door to his restaurant and they were friends.
Mhm.
So I, I think he and my mother kind of raised me to not look at it that way, that you just mind your own business, you do what you need to do, and I try to do the best I can with what I have to work with. My building is just very, very old. And actually, there used to be 9 cabins here, and they were the bunkhouses for the crew that built the tunnel between Almanor and Butt Lake in the 20s. And when Ken's dad, Frank and Nettie Wilson, decided to lease this acreage, he was road foreman for Plumas County. And so he put those cabins, they were going to tear them up. And he said, no, I want them. And so he put them on log skids and rolled them down the hill and rolled them right into the spot. The back part of my house is one of them.
Oh,
Still,
wow.
I built this house onto that. And then the center part of the restaurant, what used to be the store, is now a soda fountain. But what it used to be a store, that is one of them also. So part of that building is way over 100 years old, and it's just seen the test of time, and it's starting to say I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
But I try cleaning it up every year, and I can't do anything about it because it would just not be worth putting huge amounts of money into it, because it needs to be. After I am no longer there, I don't know what my grandson will do with it, but it won't probably be a restaurant for much longer.
Mhm.
So that part's sad for me. I didn't ever have children, and my Wilson family is my family, but none of them want to cook. So when I'm finished, when I no longer feel like physically able to do the work, it probably will cease to be, which is sad. I
Yeah.
wish I had somebody to follow in my footsteps like I followed in my father's footsteps. That would be so gratifying, but that's not going to happen, I don't believe.
Well, I think regardless of whatever happens,
Yeah.
you've still made such an impact in the
Well, I
community.
hope
And
so. The community has been very, very good to me, and without them, I wouldn't be here. I do hear some restaurateurs, not necessarily any that are here now, but used to say, "Well, the tourists are just the only thing that's important, and the locals are the just frosting on the cake." Well, for me, it's the exact opposite. I get locals, but I'm a destination restaurant. You have to know where I am to come. So I rely on local support, and also second family homes that come and spend the summers. And I'm serving some the sixth generation of some families, because I started when I was 24. So when I'm 77, um, I've served a multitude of generations of same families, and that's been very, very gratifying. And they'll come out and say, "Carol, let's take your picture because we've got this generation, this generation, this generation, this generation," and that's super fun.
yeah.
That's just really, really special.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen a lot.
That's like a life's purpose.
Yes, it is a life purpose for me, and
Mhm.
I've devoted my life to it, and I don't have regrets about that.
Sounds very fulfilling.
It is.
Pun intended. You're filling people's bellies.
I fill their bellies, they fill my heart.
Oh, I love that. And you have some original menus
Oh,
here
yes,
today.
yes, I thought you'd get a kick out of this. This is one of the early ones, and this one is from when I used to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. Now I do breakfast and lunch 5 days a week. But here, let's see, here's a milkshake, it's 75 cents. Now it's $10. A slice of pie was 70 cents.
Wow.
Now it's $5.95.
And worth it.
And worth it. Well, it's I just ordered fruit for this men's retreat I'm doing next weekend, because they ordered like 25 pies to go. And blackberries are up to $138 a case, and it's like, whoa, But a hamburger is $1.65. So it was but you can see how big the menu was back then.
Mhm.
That's inexperience speaking, because you think you can do everything to everybody.
Mhm.
And so I've learned from that experience that's not the way. A glass of wine was 50 cents, and so was
Wow.
beer.
No wonder people got drunk all the time.
But this one, you can see the lunch menu. I mean, what didn't I serve? It's crazy. And the prices there again are just, this would be back in the 80s. And I'd type it out and then I'd write it out. And so I had four kinds of appetizers, soups. I used to sell chili, four kinds of salads.
Whole tomatoes stuffed with
Shrimp,
Wow.
$4.50. And then this is the history I still keep that on the menu. But I used to go 8-ounce steak with two prawns, $10.95. Now you'd pay $40 for it. And then fried chicken was $6.95. Not doable. But I've always made my own pies because that was my dad's. My dad figured in his restaurant, he made over 100,000 pies in his lifetime.
Oh my goodness.
And so because I'm seasonal and he was year round, I'm not catching up, but I'm getting there. So because he worked as long as I have.
Yeah.
He worked until he was my age. So but you learn with time that a bigger menu isn't necessarily a more profitable menu. Mm-hmm. And that's things you learn as you go along.
Yeah.
And then take zillion classes every time you can.
So what are some of your specialties that you decided, hey, this needs to stay on the menu?
Okay. For one thing, even though I only serve fried chicken one day a week, it's probably my top seller, profit-wise, and because I charge $35 now. Of course, you get a dessert with it too. But the main thing that we do is we make our own hash. And we cook our own corned beef, we grind it, we make the hash from scratch. That is a top seller for us. And then, of course, I'm known for pie. Mm-hmm. I'm the pie lady. And I don't make cakes. I leave that to the friends of mine who do wonderful cakes, but I'm not a cake person. I like to make pie. And we have fresh muffins every morning. They're always scratch. I always make things from scratch pretty much. And so pie is my specialty. Blackberry. Before COVID, you could get boysenberry. And boysenberries I used for over 40 years. Once COVID came, when it was over, there were no more boysenberries. I don't know what happened to them, whether it wasn't profitable for them to do it anymore. But now all I can get is blackberries and blueberries, and then I get a mixed. And so those are three. And then I have people that have cabins up here, and they come up and they'll call me. Tom will call me from the Bay Area where he lives, and he says, I'm coming up. Do you want peaches? Do you want apricots? And so they bring me fresh lugs of apricots. And then I use a lot of fruit from Jeffro in town. Mm-hmm. So I try to do fresh wherever I can. But I do use IQF, which is individually quick frozen berries, because they're consistent and they were fresh when they were frozen, and they produce a wonderful pie. So I use a lot of that too in the berry department. And then the other things this afternoon, a friend of mine from Greenville is bringing me a bunch of rhubarb out of her garden.
Oh, can I place a pre-order?
Yes.
I need you heard it here, people. I'm placing a pre-order. I love rhubarb.
Yeah, and this girl, she worked for me a long time ago, and she's going to work for me part-time this summer. And she, when she worked for me, she liked bluebarb, she called it, which was blueberries and rhubarb.
Oh,
And then I do strawberry rhubarb. Mm-hmm. And then I did one here for an event where I needed to bring a dessert, and I was just looking in my pantry, and I made a pear cranberry pie.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
So it's going to be a new one on my menu this year, and I'm anxious. I'm going to try it out on my men retreat, because they'll tell me whether they like it or not.
And they always do.
Yeah. And so I'm going to try it out on them. So I've ordered the pears and the cranberries, and then I put a crisp topping on it that I've developed. I think it's going to be better with the crisp because it makes it a little bit sweeter, and then the cranberries won't be quite so tart. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited about a new new recipe.
That sounds
Yeah,
delicious.
I think it's going to be nice.
Have
Yeah.
you ever brought something new to the menu and you thought, oh, this is going to be a hit, and then it wasn't?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. And how you know that for sure is every year, every spring. I've already done it for this year, and the menu is at the printers. Every spring I do, or winter I do what's called a menu matrix,
Mm.
and what it does is you put, and I used to hashtag every single ticket by hand for the whole summer.
Wow.
Now the computer tells me what it is because I the POS system
Mm.
does. So it tells you how much of each thing you sold. So you put that in, and then you have your food cost there, and you have your what you charge for it. And based on what they call the popularity index, it will tell you whether it's a star, which is high in profit and high in popularity, a challenge, which is high in profit and somewhat low in popularity. You could change that by changing something on the menu. And then there's a workhorse, which just plods along, and
Mm.
you've gotten as much out of it as you can get. And then there's a dog. The dog is low in popularity and low in uh, profit. It's costs you too much to make and nobody eats it. Those you have to take off. And I can't tell you how many things I've thought were going to be just the stars of the summer, and I ended up taking them off the menu. Now, I have one that I took off for this year, and I'm going to get complaints. And it was a portobello mushroom sandwich, which the limited amount of vegetarians I get loved it. But once I saw how many I sold for the whole summer, because it tells me that, my POS system, I was only 103. Well, that's less than 20 a month
Mm.
when you're only open 5 months. So it wasn't really, it's not worth it to buy the portobellos and have them sit there and not use them for anything else. The trick to that, to food cost, is to try to make sure that everything on your menu gets used more than once. The other thing that was a dog was a beautiful French dip that I had on there that had cheese and this mouffe lettuce sauce, and oh my god, it was so good and nobody put it. And so I took it off, and there again, the roast beef was only for that menu item. I could make a special and do like French dip
Mhm.
and use it that way, but it didn't sell enough to keep it on, so I
Mhm.
took it off. Now everything on the breakfast menu is pretty much a star because that's what I specialize in. It's breakfast, and uh, we get like our bacon is really thick, and we get cook it from scratch. And it's a scratch cooking,
Mhm.
and use very few prepared products for any of what.
Yeah. So how do you deal with getting any pushback on like changes to the menu or having to increase the
I listen.
prices?
I listen, and they'll go on. Social media is a mixed blessing. The thing I like about it is like when you post this, it's going to get a lot of hits and it's a lot of beautiful publicity. But what I don't like about it is they go on Yelp and they give you a review and it's a bad review, but you have no way to defend yourself or talk to them or make it right by them, give them a gift certificate or make it right. You're just left with this bad taste in your mouth, and you, for every negative review, most times, 8 out of 10 times, the person that is complaining won't complain to the person that needs to know it, which would be me, right then and there, so I can make it right. What they will do is go tell 10 people, and those 10 people tell, well, you better not eat there because I heard this, and so. Well, on social media, that is just multiplied by thousands. That's very difficult to count, to counter because I care about every meal that goes out. But sometimes I have an all new kitchen crew this year for the first time in 10 years. And mistakes are going to happen. And I'm going to be there for every meal that goes out. But mistakes might happen. And I need to be able to talk to the person and say, look, I'm really, really sorry. I did that wrong. You don't want to defend yourself, but you want to explain to the guest that you appreciate what they're saying because I do, and you want to make it right. And so I just had a friend of mine who helps me at the community suppers, tell me that when she comes to eat here and sits outside, the chairs are sticky. No one's ever told me that. So that means we need to clean them differently this spring and make sure that we wipe them down more often. And she says, yeah, my pants always get dirty. Well, no one's ever told me that, but thank goodness she did. Now I can do something about it. But that's the pros and cons of social media, and it's really super important to answer those and uh, and then make a change if it's necessary. Because no, I'm not perfect. I don't. It, as far as I'm concerned, all the years I've been here, I'm only as good as my next meal. Just because I've been here 54 years doesn't mean that I'm going to be here 55 if I haven't done a good job this year. And I firmly believe that, and I always have.
Yeah. How have things in the industry changed since the
Oh,
bringing in computers and
it,
trying to find labor? I know that's hard here too.
the biggest challenge I'm having right now, in fact, I didn't even know for sure whether I was going to be able to opening on the 2nd. Last week at this time, I wasn't sure I was going to be able, because I had no wait staff at all, none. I had one who's an employee was coming back, but she could only work weekends because she works someplace else. Most people that work in the industry up here have more than one job. And so I was really concerned, but I was very fortunate that an ex-restaurant owner from this area, who spends the winter in Mexico, she asked me if I had any openings, and I told her right then that I didn't. Well, then a person that worked for me last year Facebooked me and said, hey, by the way, I'm not working for you this summer, after she'd already told me she was. And I said, okay, that's fine. People move on. You can't get upset about that. People have to do what's best for themselves and their families. It doesn't come down to what's best for me. And so this person, I don't know if she wants me to say her name, so I won't. She's coming, and she's going to help me open and work full time. And I'm just so blessed because she's experienced, because she's owned 2 restaurants. So that changed the whole complexion of it, was having her come. And then I'm mentoring a man who I taught at Chester High School 25 years ago.
Oh,
he
wow.
was in my class. He spent 22 years in the military, in the Air Force, and now he wants to learn how to run a restaurant because he wants to have one of his own for some time. So I'm mentoring him for the summer, and I'm super excited about that.
That's very exciting.
And mentoring is something that I feel is my mission pretty much at this stage of my life. I can't do much to be a better cook. I mean, I can study, and I do, but I've pretty much reached the height of my potential for what I do. But if I can help somebody else along the way, that's pretty exciting. That gets me going, and I'm so excited about him. I have a quote that I think, and this came from a restaurant magazine during COVID. And this chef's name is Landon Kelly, and he's somewhere in the LA area. He says, my success can only be measured by how effectively I create opportunities for others to succeed. And at this stage in my life, that's what it's all about. I'm never going to be rich, but if I can help somebody along the way, and some of the people that you will talk to maybe are people that I mentored along the way that now own businesses of their own, and they're successful. And boy, what a nice compliment that is, if I had anything to do with that at all. One little tiny thing.
Yeah.
One work ethic example or something that makes them want to do what I do, only do it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some things that you find yourself telling the people that you're mentoring, or what are some lessons that you give them?
Cleanliness is huge for me. Every week in the newspaper you see or social media, you see where somebody got shut down for this or that or the other. I am just phobic about that. I've spent almost 3 weeks over there now cleaning because I want it's totally spotless when I open the doors, and I don't want any ickiness anywhere. The other thing is develop a work ethic and be passionate about what you do. If you can't be passionate about it, then it's not the right thing for you. I just recently had someone that I've had, her name is Brittany, and she was with me for over 10 years. She learned everything. She ran my restaurant for me. I really miss her, but she had the opportunity to move up in her life, to go to work at the timber house. She's already the sous chef. She's got passion running out the ears. She's clean. She's fast. And she's a beautiful person. And she's raising her family. And she's a tremendous asset to this community. I am so happy for her. I miss her every day. But she did what was best for her and her family. And I can't fault that for a second. I just hope that any little thing that I've been able to teach her about work ethic, about cleanliness, about customer service, about being consistent with what you do. You can't decide to tweak a recipe that you've served the same way for 5 years and then tweak it. And then the next person comes in 2 weeks later and said, I had this 2 weeks ago. It didn't taste anything like this. That's a death knell. You've got to be consistent. And so, and that's the other thing. If you say you're going to be open from 7:30 to 2, and you haven't had a customer since 12, some of my staff will say, well, shouldn't we just shut up early? I said, no, because if they do come out from Chester, drive all the way out here, because there again, I'm a destination restaurant, and we've closed an hour early because there were no people here. Are they going to come back? Probably not. So consistency is the other thing, that if you say you're going to do something, do it and stay with it. So that's where I'm at with what I teach. And I want to teach them to love what they do, because if you like what you do, it isn't really going to work. It's just going to have you live your passion, as I said before.
Have there ever been times in all the 50 plus years that you thought, maybe I don't want to do this anymore?
Yes. And I lost 3 partners in my life. And after the first one, I didn't have any doubts that this is what I wanted to do, because I was only 44. But the last time, I was with this gentleman for 10 years. And when he passed away, I said, I just don't want to. I want to hide in my house and just go along with him. I've gotten over that. It's been almost 7 years now. But the harder it gets, it's the older I get, the harder it gets. And I'm frustrated sometimes that I can't do what I used to do and do it to the extent. A lot of times, if I'm really busy, you get an adrenaline rush. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very addictive.
Yes.
And if I get an adrenaline rush like I do at the community supper when the doors open at 5 and they start coming through the line, I can go on for an hour. But when it's over, I'm over. I'm over it. So I and then these last couple of years with the fires made me wonder whether my time is nearing its end, because it's been very, very difficult financially to keep it going. You can't lose when you're only open 5 months and you lose 2.5 of them. It's disturbing and difficult. But by the same token, I don't know what else I'm going to do except the food pantry, and that's the other thing. Like, really, I'm not a traveler. Like I said, I get homesick. So there's not a whole lot of other things I really want to do. So yeah, it's getting more challenging as I get along. And the funny part of it is I don't feel my age. I just feel sometimes that I get tired quicker than I should. I'm very healthy, so that helps.
You do not look your age at all.
Yeah. Well, it's I always say complexion is due to bacon grease coming off the grill and lubricating my face.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes,
some
definitely.
beauty secrets here, ladies.
And just moving.
Yeah.
Keep moving. And that's very good over there. I call it the Carol's Cafe aerobics program. People say, "Oh God, I put on so much weight in the wintertime." I said, give me about a month and it'll all be gone because we run. I mean, it's when you've got, we could seat 40 on the outside and 38 on the inside. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of running around, and it's not really structured to make that convenient. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of running around goes on, and we all lose weight in the summertime usually.
Yeah, that is one thing about being up here is we have winters.
Yes, we do.
And then we have summers. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to someone who is trying to find that balance of living in a tourist-driven community?
I'd say it's very, very difficult, but if you can find something that you can do in the off season that will help you financially, I don't do it anymore, but I always used to work in the wintertime for other people. And there's still a lot of jobs out here. If you're not too, I mean, I could have gone to work this winter if I wanted to, because they're so shorthanded that they didn't care. They just look at my experience and not my age. To start a new business, I couldn't do it now. But to continue on in some fashion with what I already know, I think that that's possible. But I think you have to be flexible. And a lot of times, if you volunteer somewhere, and I'm a big proponent of volunteering, if you volunteer somewhere, chances are that'll open doors for you where you might find something else that is meaningful that will bring in some income. But it's difficult. I mean, that's why, several of my people have moved on because they get year-round jobs. I can't fault them for that at all. I can't, because that's what they need. You can't live on your unemployment insurance anymore. Mm-hmm. It's just too costly. So I think if you can get out in the community, if you're worried about what's going to happen to you in the off season, if you can get out in the community and meet people and start by volunteering somewhere, and there's so many opportunities for that. And then you might meet someone who says, "Hey, I like your work ethic. You're working." I hired a young lady for this season because I met her. She worked at the food pantry, and she's going to be a valuable employee. She has no experience. I don't care. I get to teach her, and she's going to be, I think she's just going to do great. So that's a good way to get started. The biggest problem for me, employee-wise, is they're just not the pool that there used to be. And I don't know when you lived in Greenville whether you ever met Judy Dolphin. Well, Judy ran the culinary arts program at Greenville High School for, 30 some years. Fantastic teacher. And she had the best program. She had a little restaurant. It was called Makin' Bacon. And she took her kids to the Culinary Olympics, that the National Restaurant showed. Wow. They placed so high, one of them, that they went to Florida to they did the California one and went to the
Nationals.
The Nationals.
Wow.
They were so good. But she could sense who she had in her classes that might be good work material, so to speak. And so she would call me. Or I would call her, actually, or go down there, and I would say, "Judy, who's in your class that you think might want to work this summer?" And she'd say, "Well, this one has a really good work ethic. This one does well in all of her school class. This one wants to work." Chances are I didn't even hardly interview, because if I knew that she recommended them, they were going to work for me. Mm-hmm. And I've had some that went all the way through college working for me from Greenville. I have one chef that worked for me when he was in high school, went away to culinary school, came back and worked for me again. And then he just ended his career with me last fall. He's decided to go in a different direction. But he's fantastic. He's one of the best chefs around. And I'm sorry to lose him, but I respect what he wants to do. He's helping his uncle rebuild Greenville. That's a worthy cause. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't have that labor pool anymore because of the Dixie Fire and the fact that schools are getting smaller all the time. we had a great labor pool. And I mean, one of my employees that was with me for 12 years now is a bank manager. One of them that was with me for 8 years had a private school in Taylorsville.
Wow.
Those are the things that make my heart happy. And and a young man that I hired when he was still in Greenville High, who had cerebral palsy. Nobody would hire him, and I put him in the store. Oh my God, he did so wonderfully. He worked at Enloe Hospital in the admitting for 25 years after he left me. And now he got his teaching credential, and he teaches drama in the Grass Valley area.
Wow.
And it's those kinds of things that just make my heart happy.
Yeah.
And make me feel like I'm not going to end up with any money, but if I can end up with knowing that maybe I had a little bit to do with that. I mean, they have 99% of it because it came from inside them. But maybe I had a little tiny bit of influence there. And that makes this whole thing worthwhile.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you were a teacher?
I did. I taught. That was my second job. I tell you, you got to always get it. I went to Berkeley and got my teaching credential and level 1 and level 2. But before that, there used to be a program here that I really wish that they could bring back. It was called Regional Occupational Program. And I was asked to teach that class, restaurant. So I taught it in my own restaurant in the wintertime, which was a real challenge because there's no insulation over there. And then I taught it one semester. I taught at Plymouth Pines. The owner then was good with that. And then I got my teaching credential, and I went to work at Chester High, and I taught there for years until my second husband developed a terminal health issue, and I just couldn't. I needed to be with him. And then later on, I taught at college. Connie Garish got me. I was going to school there. I got my AA degree at 62. Which, if you want me to give advice to people, say, don't wait that long. Get your education out of the way. But I had to do it for myself because it was important to me. But anyway, I taught culinary arts at Feather River College for a couple of years too, and worked in the cafeteria, which was really fun.
I bet.
I liked that. I liked it a lot.
Were you able to recruit anyone from the college
yes,
to the restaurant?
I'm going to tell you about another one that I just am so proud of. Do you know the Nook in Quincy?
Yes.
Do you know Christy?
I have not had the privilege of meeting her yet.
There's a woman in business you want to talk to.
They're right by Bottled Brush?
Yes.
Okay, and I think she has her niece working in the store now with her.
I don't know.
I think I have met her actually.
Okay,
yes.
I taught her at Feather River.
Yeah.
And she didn't have a lot of self-confidence. Mm-hmm. But she has a talent and a passion. And so after I taught her, she commuted from Quincy one whole summer to work with me. And then when she got done with that, she started the Nook.
Wow.
And she's just made, I'm just so proud of her. She just is amazing. And she takes part in the community, and she just has a clean, neat little place. And she's hit it right on the note. I mean, what she does there is incredibly efficient and productive, and she serves the community. And Christy is somebody that I really think a lot of.
That's
and she only worked for me for part of a summer, but because the commute was not good. But when I taught her, I enjoyed teaching her and working with her. So she's fun to work with, and she's so good at what she does. Mm-hmm. So that's somebody you should interview.
And her food is delicious.
Yeah, she makes a soup. It's like a lasagna soup, or it's some Italian soup that is just incredible. She makes great soups. Mm-hmm. We used to compete against each other with Taste of Plumas. When they used to have Taste of Plumas at the fairgrounds.
Sounds
and
really
all the
fun.
restaurants would compete, and I competed there for several years. And I competed up against her one time, and it was so funny because here we are, know each other from a previous life, and but she won that year for her soup. She's very good at soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had her, it was split pea soup.
Uh-huh.
And she offered me a sample first, and it was delicious.
Oh, she's such a good chef.
Yeah.
She's so good at what she does.
I love it. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you have definitely mentored a lot of people over
Oh,
the decades.
well, when you're here, my first husband used to say that the only one older than him were Jesus Christ and Peter Lassen. And I've outlived him now, or pretty much. So I kind of on that same level. But it's all about the employees. You can't make it here in the restaurant business without employees. And everybody thinks, well, I don't know what else to do. I'll go be a waitress. It's one of the hardest jobs that you could do and do well. I love playing cribbage. You can play cribbage, but unless you really work at it, you can't be good enough to go to tournaments like my husband and I used to do. You can be an okay server and get the tips, but if you care a lot about what you do, it'll make a huge difference for yourself and for your employer. So I've probably had over 1,000 employees in the last 50 years.
Wow.
So, if you make, some of them go and come and they're there for a week and decide it's not for them. I'd rather they figure that out right away than get into the 4th of July and decide that they don't want to do this anymore because it's too hard.
Right.
So I've been blessed. I never would have made it this far without the kind of employees I've had through the years. It's been what's made me last this long. It's the main reason, because of who I've had that worked with me. And I don't call it working for me, because over there, they're working with me. I can't do it without them. And so employees have been the best blessing I've ever had, and it's what's contributed to my longevity.
We've seen a lot of restaurants come and go, and a lot of them don't last very long. Do you think the employees were
That's
maybe the
part of
reason?
it, but part of it, people get into it because it looks like such a cash cow, and they think, oh my God, I want to work for myself. I want to be my own boss. And then after they work the first month of 12-hour days, they begin to wonder, why did I want to do this? And a lot of times it's just fatigue. And a lot of it too is that they don't know how to price things out. And I'll admit, I spent the first 10 years not knowing how to do that. Guess, what are they charging down the street? Oh, I'll charge that. There's a science to menu pricing. There's a science to menu development. And there's a science to how it's displayed. There's menu psychology out there. And I find it interesting for people that buy bars, because they think that what they're going to do is sit with and talk to the customers and be the host. Well, it doesn't really work that way. And it doesn't work that way in most restaurants. If you're not on site, I think it's a little harder to develop a clientele that means that you mean something to them. Now, the restaurant isn't supposed to work you. You're supposed to work the restaurant. That's something I've had problems with, because I just am so involved in it and I don't have any other life. And so I've probably not learned how to delegate successfully, or I have chosen the wrong things to work at. Instead of working the front of the house, I prefer to be back there making pies. So I've made some mistakes. And the ideal solution, if a husband and wife can work together, is one does the back and one does the front. But I've always pretty much worked on my own, because Kenneth, my first husband, hated me. And my second husband grew up in Santa Rosa, and he came back and forth. Well, the busier it got, the less he liked it. So I pretty much have been on my own until Kenny and Debbie came in. And I wouldn't be here either if it weren't for them, because they've taken so much off of my shoulders, and they're so supportive, and they're so loving, and they're so smart. And I just am honored that I am a part of this family because I've married into it. There's no blood there, but I don't feel that way when I look at them. I feel that that's my family, and I do have a wonderful family on my sister's side. Uh, but they're not here, and I get to see them maybe twice a year. Where here, uh, we're a working relationship, and that's so special.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. It's important to have family, whether it's blood or by
Yeah.
marriage or
Sometimes
adopted.
the step situation doesn't work out real well for some people, but for me, they've never looked at it that way. I don't think. At least they tell me they don't. So,
Yeah.
and I choose to believe them.
So, and I asked you earlier, but are you also running the resort?
No, Kenny and Debbie, my grandson and his wife,
Mhm.
and they've raised three boys here. All are grown now, and one lives in Montana. He's a fly fisherman guide, and he teaches skiing because all three boys went to college on full ride scholarships because they were all skiers. And they
Wow.
started at Stover Mountain in Chester when they were like 5
Hmm.
and got up to junior champions. And so the oldest one teaches skiing in the winter and fly fishing guide in the summer. The middle one, Cody, he is a firefighter, a household fire, not wildland fire, and lives in Breckenridge, Colorado. Oh, well, not anymore. He lives in Colorado anyway. And then the youngest one, Calvin, who helps me a lot, he lives in Reno with his wife. So they come over, like they were here a couple weeks ago to help his, so he could help his dad get the docks back in the water and the boom logs straightened out after winter. And he is a genius when it comes to the square and he's a financial counselor, so he's just really super smart. And I can call on him anytime I want, and he'll help me. So he's a huge part of my life. So I'm just really grateful that I have all of that.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it easier when you have a good support
I
system.
do have a great support system here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're getting ready to open the restaurant
May
and
2nd.
May 2nd, we're filming Easter. Today's 4/20, so in
Yeah.
just a few weeks. We have Memorial Day coming up in about a
Mm-hmm.
month. That's going to be huge.
Yes.
And you have a cookbook as well.
I have a cookbook coming out, or that's published and ready to go. It's my probably seventh edition. I add something to it each time, and I added this time. I had several people say, "Well, is the fried chicken recipe in there?" And I've never put it in there because it just seems like so easy. But
Mhm.
when I started to write it out, it took 2 pages. So I guess it took more. I realized it. I've just done it for so long, and it's second nature to me. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it took 2 pages to get the instructions right.
Mhm.
But and I've got a good crew getting started, and then we have uh, the chamber mixer on May 8th that everybody's welcome to come to. And then I'm doing, I have a table at the Taste of Chester, the Big Bopper Bash, which is
Oh,
June
what's that?
20. That's in Chester at the airport,
Hmm.
and it's run by Almanor Foundation, and it's a fundraiser, and it's a lot of fun. I did it 2 years ago, and it's a lot of fun. And uh, each restaurant has a table, and then we do. And then this year we're going to kind of compete, so that'll be fun because I used to do that at Taste of Loomis, and
Hmm.
I won Best of Show once over there, so that was really heady.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm a little bit competitive. I like to try my best.
Definitely.
Yes, come up with something different that I don't serve.
Yeah. So, speaking of competition, you mentioned earlier that we are a close community here.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that you never really felt that
No,
competition.
it's like my neighbors down the street, Plymouth Pines. They have a bar. I don't. They're closer to the lake because they're on PG&E property. I'm not. They do dinners. I don't anymore. But I do breakfast and they don't. And we've worked our schedule around, so I'm open on the one day they're closed, so that if people come out there, there's some place for them to go.
Mhm.
We're totally different things, although we have banded together this summer and we're doing a promotion that's called the West Shore Promotion, and it's with myself, and we're offering a prize of um, it'll have a round of golf from Almanor West. It'll have dinner from Plumas Pines and a gift card for me for breakfast and lunch.
Oh,
And we're
wow.
working together on that. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the way it should be.
Mhm.
And uh, it used to be years ago, they had a chef down there that got to be really close friends, and they would close and then we would close on different days. And we would put a sign out front that says, "We're closed today. Come go visit our friends at Plymouth Pines." And then they had one out there that said, "Go visit. We're closed today. Go visit our friends
Mhm.
at Carol's Cafe." So I like that kind of camaraderie.
Yeah.
Um, and as I've done a lot of catering in my life, um, catering is a little more competitive, but each person offers something different. I mostly concentrated on outdoor weddings and that kind of thing, and I didn't care too much about how small or big it was. And a lot of times, it's not profitable to do small ones, but I liked it because I could do it all by myself. Now I'm stepping back a little bit from that this year because I don't have enough staff. It takes a whole nother group of people in order to leave the restaurant and go. And I had two experienced chefs the last 5 or 6 years, so I could go do catering and not take away from who was there.
Mhm.
I can't do that this year, so because I'm going to be cooking again.
Yeah.
So that's going to make it a little difficult. And but I do enjoy catering, mostly because I cater outside, and I
Yeah.
love being outside.
Right.
It's so much fun. Yesterday, when I did the distribution for the food pantry for the Easter, I do the intake. I go to the cars and find out who it is and how many's in their family and stuff. And I was out in the sun all day. Oh my gosh, that was so nice. Yeah,
Mhm.
I like the catering for the outside. And years ago, when Brad was alive, we did a pontoon boat dinner. He could
Whoa.
drive the pontoon boat. We charged $350 for 4 people, and they would come at 5 o'clock down to my courtesy dock, and we would rent a pontoon boat from Plumas Pines, and I'd have everything prepared and in a hot holding unit. And then we would give them a 3-course dinner, and we'd start out with appetizers, and then we'd go down a little ways down the lake and anchor, and I would serve them their dinner, and Brad would help me, and then we would have dessert, coffee, and champagne on the way back, and get back into the dock just at dusk. So it
Mhm.
was about a 2 to 3 hour thing, and that was a lot of fun.
That's very creative marketing.
It was fun. I enjoyed it
Yeah.
a lot.
That's really
It was
fun.
great. Well, I took a marketing class one time, and one of the instructors, and it's kind of a fun thing, and it works. One of the instructors says, put something on your menu that's outlandishly expensive because it makes everything else look reasonable. So that year on the bottom of my menu, we had this boat ride for $350. And we only did maybe 6 of them. Then Brad got sick, so we didn't do them anymore. But it made everything else, it worked just like they said it was going to.
Mhm.
So that's really a fun thing.
And you got 6 rides out of it. That's
Yeah,
a
I
good
got 6 rides
amount.
and outside in the evening. How much?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a win-win. That's
Yeah, so
amazing.
that was a fun experience.
Yeah. So during this time that you're doing all these amazing things, and now it sounds like you're shifting more with a focus into mentorship,
Hmm.
what would you say for the women that are coming into business, or how have you seen things change for women?
Oh, I think that things have changed dramatically for women. In my first husband that brought me here passed away in 1992, and at that time I had been doing all of the resort myself with some staff, but
Hmm.
not very many.
Right.
And he hadn't been involved for at least 2 years because he had a terminal illness and he was confined to the house, and didn't he wasn't helping.
Mhm.
He passed away in August of 1992. I spent the winter of 1993, which is that one year, the heaviest snow I've ever seen up here. Got open in the spring, and I happened to hire, because she was qualified, a female gay woman for my boat person, and she was good at it. I had a whole delegation from my campground come up, and because they said, because you're a woman, you just don't understand this now that Kenneth is gone. And you we have these suggestions that you need to take care of, and you need to get rid of her first of all, because it offended them.
Because she was gay.
Yeah. And I didn't. But that would never happen nowadays. That would never happen nowadays. And and after he passed away, the prevailing wisdom was I didn't know what I was doing. And that wasn't true, because I've been doing it all along. I would ask him for advice, but I would have to do it, implement it myself. And then the last year or two, he was too ill to ask for advice. So I ended up making those decisions myself. And there was a lot of things that went down that were difficult decisions to make. But I was treated like I didn't know anything. And that doesn't happen nowadays. And it isn't just because of my age, it's just because women are treated differently. And if you look at the businesses in Chester, most of them are owned by women. Mm-hmm. I was just sitting here thinking that while you were doing that. And most of them are owned by women. And they're doing a fantastic job. I mean, some of the creativity that you see in their storefronts is incredible. Beautiful things. And so I have nothing but admiration for them. And nobody is saying, you can't do this because you're a woman, or where's your husband? I mean, some of them, their husbands are involved, but some of them are doing it on their own. And I just appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that we're giving that opportunity, which we weren't 40 years ago. So I think that, and that's the other thing is when you deal with people that you need to have service in your business, like my representatives for my wholesalers, things like that. They show me a tremendous amount of respect, which they didn't used to at the beginning. And service providers, plumbers, electricians, they listen to what I have to say. Back in the day, all I was told was, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that doesn't much exist anymore. Maybe it does, but I don't see it here. Maybe it does in the city. I know that they talk about the glass ceiling and that kind of thing, but here, I think it's how hard you're willing to work and what ideas you have. And women are letting their creative ability shine. And I think that that is making a huge difference because they have things to offer. And I could give you a list of women in Chester that I think you should enter, because I look at what they're doing with their lives and what they're doing with their businesses, and I'm just awestruck at how young they are compared to me, but yet what a positive difference they're making in the community with their work and their work ethic. And I think work ethic still has a lot. And I'm sorry if young people don't think that's important, because I think it is maybe the most important thing.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Yeah. Any closing thoughts or any exciting plans that you want to share with people?
Well, like I said, I'm going to be at the Big Bopper Bash. We got the chamber mixer coming, and I have my oldest great-grandson is getting married and having his wedding reception here at the end of this month. So
that's exciting.
I've got Wilson family members coming from Hawaii, North Carolina, Colorado, Leadville. That's where they are, not Leadville. Leadville. I think that's such a funny name, Leadville. Anyway, they're coming from all over to be there, and so we'll have a kind of a mini family reunion, and that'll be fun.
Oh, wow.
And then I have new people that I'm going to mentor this year, and I'm excited about that. So I'm excited about the season. I just pray we don't have another.
Yeah.
That, yeah, I'm not going to look for that.
Yeah.
But I think the lake is full, and people are interested. Kenny's got lots of trailers in already, so I'm I'm excited. I get excited. My sister says I'm like in the fall. She says I'm like a tulip that goes underground and is buried all winter long, and then in spring I get excited and start to bloom again, and I'm ready to go back to work. So I have to say that that's the way I feel about things right now.
She is beautiful and blooming, everyone. And what will be your hours this season for the restaurant?
We're going to start in May. Till I get everybody trained, we're only going to work from Thursday to Sunday, 7:30 to 2. The first fried chicken dinner will be Memorial Day weekend, Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, and then June 11th we'll go to 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday, and that will continue clear until September.
Perfect.
So, and then we always stay open on the Monday of each holiday. So Monday of Memorial Day, Monday of 4th of July, and Monday of Labor Day.
That's good to know.
And we are always open then.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much, Carol.
This was enjoyable.
This was so
Thank
much
you.
fun.
Not a lovely way to spend the day.
Yes, I would have to agree. Let's check out your view. You want to show the people your beautiful view? Fun fact, I always get a little bit nervous in the beginning too. Yeah. Yes.